Hello and welcome to Art from Heart Beyond the Canvas. I'm Avni, the founder of Art from Heart, and today we'll be diving into the world of art and landscape design. We're thrilled to have Mr. Steve Hansen as our guest. Mr. Hansen's passion for landscape design began at just 13 years old when he built his first water feature out of a wine barrel in his backyard. What started as a neighborhood lawn care business for pocket money quickly evolved into a lifelong career. In the early 1980s, newly married to his wife Sabina and starting a family, Mr. Hansen dedicated himself fully to launching their landscape business. In the pre-internet era, the couple learned the trade through hands-on determination, libraries, and nursery visits. Driving their growth from a borrowed family car and a rented trailer to their first pickup truck, they steadily expanded their services to include advanced masonry, concrete work, decking, and fencing. Demonstrating remarkable company loyalty, their very first employee, hired in 1983, remains with the team today. Under his leadership, the business has grown into a premier full-service landscape consultation design and installation firm. Today, the company boasts a fleet of vehicles, employs 20 full-time staff members, most of whom hold tenures of 10 to 30 years, and services 12 cities across the San Francisco Bay Area. Setting the company apart as a regional leader, Mr. Hansen established the Bay Area's only half-acre outdoor landscape show yard and gardens. This unique facility features fully realized working examples of waterfalls, synthetic turf, retaining walls, patio covers, and diverse landscaping. It serves as an interactive space where clients can experience the team's craftsmanship firsthand, collaborate on custom designs, and bring their outdoor vision to life. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Hansen. We're really excited to have you as our guest and share your journey with our audience.
Very good. Thank you, Audrey.
Yeah. All right. So first, I'd just like to ask you what initially inspired you to pursue your field?
I had graduated from high school and was working part-time in a construction company. And I got married not long after high school. We had a baby not long after that and had to be the breadwinner and pay the bills and pay the rent. And the company I was working with was kind of part-time. So I thought, what could I do to earn some money quickly? So for whatever reason, we decided to put an ad in a little local throwaway potpourri newspaper, doing yard cleanups and hauling and anything that my wife and I could do together to bring some money in. And that led to somebody asking us to plant a tree for them, do little various landscape projects, and we enjoyed it. And so we just kind of kept going with it. We never had a grand plan. We just kind of kept going with the flow.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's very inspirational that you started so small, but then like grew to become something really big. So, yeah, that's great. Awesome. So, next I'd like to ask you, I mean, I know landscape design, there's probably a lot of creativity in the field. So, where would you say you draw your inspiration from to stay creative, and how do you think creativity connects with your work?
So anytime I travel, anytime I drive anywhere, I'm always gravitating toward looking at landscaping. Uh,
Mm,
when we go to maybe Disneyland or some of the tourist towns, that we would break away and go to, and just always enjoyed the tranquility and the beauty of visiting various city gardens.
mm,
Uh, that was, of course, after we'd started the company, so we already had the interest. Our hearts were already leading us that direction, and then we just started kind of embracing uh, the idea of what they call the green industry, which is kind of what landscape is referred to, the green industry. And so we just kind of stayed with it. And now our designs that we do for our clients, we used to be a company that a customer would call us and they'd have an idea, they'd have a plan drawn by another designer, and we were simply installers for what they wanted to do. And
mm.
time, we started having our own opinions about how we would do it. We were helping them do their grand vision, but what would we do if it were our project and we had creative control? And I think slowly that started morphing into making recommendations to clients, and then pretty soon doing sketches for clients. And then at some point, again, it wasn't a grand plan. It just kind of morphed and segued over a period of time. And at one point, then we started somewhere we grew to where we're at now, which is, we go measure a yard. We have a draftsman on staff that draws the yard up, determines direction of north, south, so we know where the sunny, shady spots are of a particular home, so that we can then design them an atmosphere in a yard that that they can enjoy, that's aesthetically beautiful, where they want to invite their friends over and hang out,
Hmm.
drink and be merry, and so that kind of led us to create our landscape design show yard. So we've got all the examples here that they can come see, and we're always changing it. We're always adding to it. We're always second guessing what we have, coming up with new ideas, tearing stuff out, rebuilding, and yeah, it's an absolute passion, and it's an industry that has room for growth. For people who want to enter the green industry. And there's a ton of different things that happen within the green industry that a person can choose to do.
That's very cool. And I mean, you said like it's called the green industry. So would you say that like the first thing that comes to my mind is also like sustainability? So, and like being green in the sense of, um, kind of being kind to the earth. So would you say like that's also a big part of landscape design now, or is that kind of changing the field a little bit?
Well, we've gone in the 48 years that I've been involved in the industry doing this work. We've gone through several periods of drought,
Mm,
sometimes a year, sometimes several years. And some of that, of course, is due to the weather, but other times it could be due to overbuilding, in a particular area that may not have as much water
mhm,
available. So about 10 years ago, when we were doing our advertising for new projects, we added a tagline that said "Water-wise landscape design."
mm,
And so what that meant was we had to be very careful about designing yards that, while all yards need some water, we wanted to be very careful about taking too much water, from the overall water that we all have available to us as a group, right? In
mhm,
a particular city or an area. And so we would design projects that had more hardscape, more concrete, more brick, things that don't require water. We also, over time, changed our thoughts from using real grass. Real grass requires the most water per square foot of,
mhm.
that we could possibly put in a new landscape project. And with the advent of synthetic turf, uh, commonly known right as fake grass, um, at first it was not great, but over time it became more real looking. And today on our facility here, we don't even have real grass anymore. All the grass that we have is synthetic, artificial turf. And it's the same stuff that you see on play fields, for soccer and different things, but it doesn't require any water, and that's greatly helped us. And the amount of water that our landscapes use now that we design with synthetic turf are probably about a third of the water use today of what it would have been, 10 years ago when everybody was installing lots of real grass.
Yeah, that's really great. And I mean that's also very like California specific too, because yeah, I mean I know California has had a lot of like drought episodes and periods in the past, so that's really great. Awesome. And yeah, I mean I know you were mentioning that you've been doing landscape design for a long time now and it's really grown. So is there any like memorable or a challenging moment in your journey? And what would you say you learned from that?
Well, I think realizing, I wish I would have had the ability when I was younger to have been more opinionated about what I was recommending to my clients. I think when I was younger, especially in my 20s, and lots of my clients were older, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and I was this young guy, you know, doing this work for them as a contractor. I think I kind of held back on recommendations and how I would do things.
Mm,
So today, because now I'm the older guy in the room, after
mhm.
all. years, and I'm working a lot of times with people much younger than I am. Uh,
Mm.
I think I'm a lot more comfortable today telling people what I think they should do, what they shouldn't do. I have to make sure I separate my opinions, which some of my opinions are simply subjective, where other opinions are based on historical failures that I've made. And in any business, any industry, as you go into it, you learn about it. But then, as you get in the trenches and you do the work, you realize that you make mistakes with it. And because I've been in business as long as I have, I think we're better today as designers because mistakes that we've made in the past, you don't want to bring those, to the next party, right? You
Mhm.
want to learn from that, and it's like that didn't work. Let's not repeat that. And so I know where my limitations are, based on how I design a yard for somebody. And some of these yards have swimming pools and hot tubs and waterfalls and lighting systems and pretty much the whole, we would call it kind of custom landscape design. It's not just your traditional, square patio with a lawn around it with some plants around that I grew up in as a kid. These yards that we design today have multiple areas within them, different little sitting areas that people can go sit and be in the shade, or if they're having people having a party, and some people are more introverted and quiet and they know they got to come to the party, but they don't want to be with everybody. So you have to design the yard so there's places for them to go to and hang out in the yard, still be part of the party, but not necessarily have to participate in everything. And I try to be very sensitive to designing a yard that everybody in the family, their friends, their family, neighbors, can have various places to hang out in the landscape. And I learned that from my own life, just from having my own family, my kids, clients coming here to my property, and just use my own personal examples of what then I want to share with my clients to make their yards the best they can be right out of the starting gate.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think what's interesting is how you mentioned like you have your subjective opinions versus like historically what you experienced with like past clients. So I think that's interesting that you have to like find that balance to like respect your clients but also like be strong in your opinion. So that's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this next question is a fun one, but if you could collaborate with anyone, who would it be and why? And what kind of project would you do?
If I could collaborate with anybody, um, I think it would be cool to collaborate with an artist. Some
Mm,
did painting that had a vision, that which is static, right? A painting is kind of static. You paint it, you create it, and you put it up on your wall. um, our work that we do is not static. It changes from season to season,
mm,
from hot to cold weather, um, different plants, how big they get. So ours is like a painting, but it's like an ongoing changing painting. And I think that if I was to work with somebody that was sensitive to that one frame of what a person could see, in my work, we've got various frames of vision that we see throughout the yard, and
mm,
just having somebody that could could help me focus in not the big picture but individual frames, perhaps being more sensitive to the beauty that could be created in one view of a particular yard. So I think my answer would be to work with a very good painter, a very good artist, to be able to take our vision and help improve it into something that might have more detail to it, that would be
mm.
apparent maybe in a painting than what we're doing.
So would you say like they would paint a really like realistic vision of what you'd like, or something a bit more like abstract that's like a feeling or a vibe kind of thing?
Yeah, I think you just said it right. I think the idea of creating I try to develop things like whimsy,
Mm.
or projects, but everybody that I work with has a different set of opinions about what they
Mm.
want. And I think sometimes maybe I create things, pretty literally in the work that I design, where if somebody came in and they could bring a little bit of abstract, I think I like that
Mm.
just use, where abstract, where, we don't have to be, in our own little pigeonhole. I
Mm.
think everybody, that does art, I'm imagining, has their own thoughts and what they want to portray in a painting. And I maybe, myself, I get kind of hung up in my particular design style, and it's nice to once in a while, leave your comfort zone and do something that opens it up, that maybe could make me better as a designer, and
Mm.
maybe more open to working with a larger range of people and their perceptions of what they like.
Mm. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think every like artist has their own vision or painting style. Um, and I think looking at a painting itself can be very inspiring and just give you a different perspective. So that's very cool.
I like that. I like abstract. I think that
Yeah.
I'm always trying to challenge myself and come up with new ideas for my customers. And my show yard and gardens here in Castro Valley has lots and lots of wonderful things for people to come see, materials and design and all the stuff that we do, and they get inspired and they get excited.
Mhm.
And I think I'd like to uh, do more stuff that was kind of off the grid, a little, like you
Mm.
said, abstract. That's a good word. I'm gonna after this I think I'm gonna keep that word in my mind a little bit more, to come up with stuff that's kind of really, really one of a kind, something that an artist might have created and put into, some special garden that is not run of the mill.
Mm. Yeah, that's great. I'm happy that you feel inspired by that. Awesome. Great. All right. So, my last question today is kind of focused on, I guess, the next generation of people that are going to do this work. So, what advice would you offer to young people pursuing creative or professional passions in general?
You know, the landscape industry, this green industry, is such an amazing opportunity for people to create, come up with ideas. I mean, landscape is not just putting in a lawn and a tree or pouring a driveway or a walkway. You're creating an environment for people, and somebody that's creative. And I think I was always kind of creative when I was younger. I like to draw and sketch and what have you. And I think this has given me a really great outlet to take that creativity, because when you design in landscape, you're designing a space for somebody and their family and friends to use. You're creating the vision that they're going to be living with for hopefully years. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone. I'll be leaving. I know I'm leaving a legacy of many, many, hundreds of projects that I've worked on that are going to outlive me, and they're going to still be used by families, and maybe that family sells that home to another person, and then a new family comes in, and they won't even know who did the original yard. It'll just be a new
Mm-hmm.
enjoying the yard. And so for somebody that's creative, I mean, there's a lot of work in this business. I mean, people that come in at entry level, lots of digging ditches and carrying trees and boulders and wheelbarrows, and it's an incredible amount of labor work that goes into it. And I did all that when I first started. But as I got more into design and able to use my thoughts rather than my hands so much, um, anybody with a passion for design, I mean, even designing, as I'm sitting here, I'm looking in my own backyard, and I've got a nice backyard, and I've got some rails around my deck out here, and I built a bar top on top of the rail on my deck, so that I could put bar stools there and actually sit and use the rail as a countertop, as a bar. And it's beautiful, and it's functional. And so the idea that a person creates this stuff, patio covers and waterfalls. We do lots of waterfalls and water features that you have an opportunity to create some new design. You might look at pictures to give you ideas, but then you actually have to create it and make it work. So there's a little bit of visualization necessary. There's engineering, and it's always kind of taxing your mind on how you can do it. I'll wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, and I've got a job I'm doing, and I've got a particular thing that I'm thinking, how do I handle that situation? And then I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and it's like, voila, there's that aha moment. It's like, oh, okay, I think I know how to fix that now for that particular to make it right. So it's a great industry, and there's room for people to grow in this industry, not just doing the installation, which is a lot of fun, but becoming a landscape designer or a landscape architect. And landscape architects do work for cities and municipalities, and they're designing parks and all the stuff that goes along with city centers and that sort of thing. And it's an always changing medium. There's always so many different plants and different materials that come out that you never get bored.
Great. Yeah. So, I mean, I think what you're saying is like it's sort of a way to use your creativity to help like your community or like other people and help them like kind of create their own like vision of what they want into something real that's like also functional for them. So that's very cool. And I think the industry is very interesting. Yeah.
And you're getting to help people with tranquility. Life
Yeah.
life has a lot of curveballs sometimes that are thrown at you, work and family and school and all the different things that people go through. There's so much that you get tied into that are stress releasers, that creating a landscape. And here at my own home, which is where I host the landscape show, Yard and Gardens, I've created so many tranquil areas within it, and sitting down next to a little water feature and or maybe seeing a bird come in and drink from that water feature, butterflies or bees or whatever. It can 10 minutes of that can really bring your blood pressure way down if you just say, what, let me not think about all the woes of the day or the worries of tomorrow. Let me just focus for 15 minutes right here, drink your favorite beverage or a cup of tea or whatever, and just zone out and watch your landscape for a little while. It's very therapeutic.
Wow. Yeah. That's very nice. I mean, I think you're making a big impact on your clients and everyone. So that's very nice. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Hansen, for sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us today. And it's really been a pleasure hearing about your experiences and the passion that you bring to landscape design. And I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot of valuable inspiration from your story. To everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us on this episode of Art from Heart Beyond the Canvas. We hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. Be sure to subscribe and stay connected for more exciting episodes exploring the intersection of art and creativity in all its forms. Until next time, stay creative.